But the sentence just above that, you use the term my and I.
Yes, I do so.
In your testimony, Minister, what is the reason for withdrawing the statement, open quote, further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding value, any value, to policing in South Africa?
The first part deals with what I've been dealing with in the last 3 days, or it refers to that, no longer required, emanating from right from 2019, when they intended then to replace the National Political Killings Task Team with a structure that was based on the study that had been done, and they sought long-term, they sought sustainability, just to make sure that they continue in a sustainable way to fight what was emerging, but taking it broader than just political killings. There were other crimes that were emerging at that time, and they thought that in order to contain everything, let them create a new structure. So even then, they felt that once that structure gets implemented, a structure like the National Political Killings Task Team, only based in KZN, wouldn't be required. But then there were delays and extensions up to 2024, when they finally submitted to the National Commissioner a report that was supposed to be signed and then implemented, and which didn't happen. So no longer required comes from that kind of observation. Now, adding, in the sense that a lot of crimes and a lot of people in the country are complaining about matters, they're complaining about drugs, they're complaining about, and myself, I'm also complaining about that, because I've seen in some instances people just getting murdered, and to find that in the background there are drugs and related matters, including illegal firearms. And therefore, if you have a structure of 68 people based in KwaZulu-Natal, whereas these crimes are all over, especially in the 4 provinces, you wouldn't feel that you are adding value. If you look at 415 million from 18 to now, of course you'd say they were doing well and so on in the tasks that they were facing, but no longer equally so because of the changes that have taken place.
But when you were asked about the wording used, you then agreed that they do add value. You are withdrawing the fact that you said that they do not add any value.
No, I'm talking about as time went on, particularly after 2023.
I fully understand that, Minister, but I'm trying to get to understand, even after that explanation, why then did you accept that perhaps you should have phrased it differently? Why did you accept that in testimony?
Why didn't I accept?
When the question was posed to you, why did you use the words that they did not add any value? And then you said, no, they did add value. So maybe you should have used other words. So I'm trying to understand, why did the minister withdraw?
Well, that you are putting a weight to those words. And you recall when I spoke to the evidence leader, I did say to the evidence leader, when he said, was it not possible to use any other term or other terms. I said, yes, for the same purpose, I could have used softer words and so on. So, similarly to the question that you are now posing, construction of a sentence can always take different forms, but those are the words that I used at that time. So, and you will realize that when the CFO...
Sorry, Minister, with respect. So for today, as per your testimony the last time, do you stand by how you phrased it on the 31st? Or are you saying that you're pulling that back like you said the last time and you could have used different words? Or are you maintaining that they have not added any value to the South African police?
I don't think the actual wording says they have not added. It says, no, are they adding? In other words, if you read the whole sentence, no longer required, it could have said, no longer adding value.
So you're saying that
Yes, that's
from the 31st going forward, they're no longer adding, but prior, they have added value.
Yes.
Okay, they have
Yes.
added value.
Pardon?
You are saying they have added value.
Yes, they
Okay.
have, but
They no longer do from the 31st.
yes, if you look at, for instance, the figures that were presented in Parliament on the 5th, which I've been referring to, where in March we're dealing with one fresh case. We had dealt with 7 fresh cases in 2024. You wouldn't really say, maybe in a long-winded sentence, you could say, based on no longer adding value, based on one monetary investment which would have declined as the cases decline, and also based on the fact that you pull people from other stations and you don't replace them over time, which means that where they come from, they leave gaps. So they, in my view, you are no longer optimizing and using those resources equal to the value.
So I read the evidence that you...
Honorable Sals, let me take Honorable Malimata.
Thanks, Chair. Morning, Minister. Morning, colleagues. Honorable Sols is asking you about something that you wrote here, and you say you don't think it's written like that. You're saying my observation in this regard, as indicated above, is that further existence of this team is no longer required, nor is it adding any value to policing in South Africa. And then the question is, do you still stand by that?
The answer is yes. But when he pursued me, I then tried to elaborate. Thank you.
No, Minister, I fully understand that
Are you
you...
okay, Honorable Malim? Thank you. Honorable Sals, thank you so much. You may proceed.
Thank you, Chair. No, Minister, I fully understand that you maintain they are no longer adding. But what you are saying is that they have added before.
Definitely.
Now, I want us to now take a few minutes and talk about and interrogate that statement. Have they added before to the value of the South African police service as a whole? We're going to walk through that. So when we consider the PKTT, the extension requests, the budget increases, even though the staff complement decreases. Example, the initial request covering 6 months, September 2019 to March 2020. They asked for 57.1 million for a team comprising of 152 members. By 2021-2022, they asked for 97 million. But the staff complement decreased from 152 that they asked 54 million for. It decreased to 110 members. And now they're asking 97.5 million for. Minister, is that them having added value to SEPS in South Africa as a whole?
What was the exact question?
When you consider your statement, they're no longer adding, but they have added. We are now interrogating. Have they added?
Yes.
And now I'm asking, when we consider throughout the extension requests, and they asked for a budget first in 2019 for only 6 months of 57 million for 152 members. And then in 2021-2022, they increased that to 97 million, but the staff complement decreased to 110 members. Would you say that they added value to SEPS in South Africa as a whole?
Well, part of what that sub-sentence or that phrase in the last sentence is based on is along those lines, as I've indicated, the calculations in terms of monetary value. But what I didn't add, because I wasn't writing details, you add the personnel, you add running costs of cars, you add, so that is just an indication what you are talking about. When you add all other things, the expense is quite high for the cases that were decreasing, as we are referring to.
So are you saying they have added value despite the way they approach the request
Well,
for money, even though the staff complement decreases? It's okay, Minister. If you say yes or no, it will work. Are you saying that it did add value, even though they did that? Yes, no?
I'm saying so at the beginning because at that time you had a problem of killings as the problem was identified, and it added value in the sense that there was a decrease in the cases. But you can always have a concern about what money was getting into that and so on, as I'm indicating. But generally, that's my view, that at the beginning they added value, and they were a factor in the decrease, although not the only factor.
Okay. I'm still just looking at your evidence, and I'm putting it to you what you've given to us. Talking about cases, when you observe that in 2019, the task team reported 60 cases remaining under investigation, 60. By March 2021, the progress report, after giving 100 million, close to 100 million, and they were in existence for 18 months of operation, the number of cases then reported 18 months later, 100 million rand later, was 62 under investigation. No shift. Minister.
62 what? What did you say was the number of cases?
At first, they recorded 60 cases
Yes,
under investigation.
I have that in-
After giving just under 100 million to them, and them being in existence in 18 months. In 18 months, the cases still under investigation was reported as 62. No shift. Minister, did they add value to SAPS in South Africa as a whole?
Well, despite those figures, which I see and acknowledge that you are quite critical. When you look at the expenditure, you look at the figures of cases with minor shifts upwards. You could have a perspective like that look perhaps the value was quite less if you look at from that perspective. But generally, the view is that I share is that they added value at the despite those figures, because I wasn't I mean, I'm not necessarily basing it on case by case and rand for rand, but generally the view which I share was that they did add value at the beginning.
I thought you testified that you applied your mind, and what brings you to a decision must make you consider the past events and makes you decide what will happen going forward. So I assumed that your reasoning, as I read your evidence, was that when you saw all these things, it is these facts that made you think there hasn't real value been added for SAPS South Africa as a country, not just provincially. And therefore, this steps has to be taken. So I'm going to take you further, Minister, as I read your evidence. When you consider by March 2021, the PKTT have secured 246 arrests across 117 cases. 246 arrests. However, of these, only 42 accused were successfully convicted. 64 charges were reported as withdrawn. So the number of charges withdrawn is more than the number of convictions. Minister, did they add value to SAPS South Africa as a whole, when you consider that fact and others?
Now, you are asking about values still. What's the question?
Minister, your submission to me was that your statement was that they're not adding value going forward, but they added value when you look back. Now we're looking back and we are interrogating based on facts before us. Did they truly add value to the South African Police Service, South Africa as a whole?
Well, I have said generally, without or despite those calculations, and considering the fact that there was a downward trend, even though you could still poke some holes in terms of quality thereof, and say generally they did add value, and that was acknowledged across. But it's not without those points and factors that you are counting. Hence, where we are now, taking all those points into consideration, you do have concerns in terms of value. Could I request, so that I'm of help to you in terms of responding, to get where you are reading from, so that as you read, I look at what you are reading?
Now, I've studied the entire evidence that you've brought to us. And then I drew cross-reference and drew comparisons between.
Oh, okay.
Then I formulated these
Okay.
questions based on those facts.
Okay.
So I'm trying to understand, looking back. So when you consider the PKTT's 2024-2025 request, the latest one, for 94.8 million for 120 SEPS members, that equates to an annual allocation of approximately 790,000 per member. That is 65,000 rand per member per month. And this allocation only pertains to a unit in KZN. I ask you, Minister, did this add any value to SEPS South Africa as a whole?
Well, I'll go back to my answer that generally, when I looked at all the factors, my honest view was that the value had been decreasing over time. If you are considering South Africa, as you point out, that was my concern, and finally settling for a directive, because the cases, on one hand, decreasing the budget was not necessarily, and the concerns of the CFO. So I share that concern. It was it culminated at that directive.
Okay. So we've moved from no to you share the concern. All right. Is it true that the DPCI's reported overall staff shortfall amounts to 2,711 personnel?
DPCI?
Yes, sir.
Well, without the advantage of figures in front of me, but I do know that generally they have been raising concerns via General Libya, who was head of DPCI. They have been reporting shortfalls and problems on personnel, on equipment, and on various other components that would enhance their work. They've been complaining over time.
So,
Not only them, but let me hold it at that, it is true.
so I put it to you, Minister, there's 2,711 staff members that DPCI, Hawks, is saying they need. Now, when you consider that, and you spend just under 100 million on a temporary unit, when there is a need to fund such a critical division, does it add value to South African SEPS as a whole?
There is a basis of an argument for a decreasing value. You may, as I answered you earlier, that yes, at the time, but as time went on, it clearly unsettles you and makes you a bit uncomfortable. That how you are spending resources may be skewed And those figures that you are pointing out serves that particular purpose in terms of you looking at your distribution of resources within subs, and they increase your concern.
So the concern is increasing now.
Yes, they increase the concern and the need for a more rational kind of use of resources.
All right, let's continue. Minister, when you consider the budget allocation for laundry services alone for 12 months in 2022 for 110 members, it amounted to 4.4 million, just laundry. This translates to a calculated monthly amount per person, just for laundry, per person, 3,367 rand 73 cents. This figure is equivalent to the basic living cost of a normal South African, and that money is used on one member just for laundry. Has this added value to the South African police service in South Africa as a whole?
Yes, you would increasingly find yourself in some corner when, as you calculate the costs of the national political killings task team over time and lending to, at a time when I wrote the directive, it was because of that you continue to sit uncomfortably as you consider other factors. And as I say, the issue starts in November, where I say I have these concerns about matters and all of that, but you don't have additional resources from Treasury. So you have to be on your own. And when you put it the way you're putting, you are more and more on the side of lesser and lesser value.
Minister, when you consider that in 2021, 2022, the figures reveals that 43.6, or rather 43.1 million was requested for overtime alone, just overtime. When you calculate that per member, each member gets approximately 392,400 per annum. And that is over and above their normal salaries. Minister, is this adding, and has it added to the value of the South African police service in South Africa as a whole?
Just to check, Minister. Honorable Souls, are not those the questions for the portfolio committee of the police and the accounting officer?
Chair, you can guide me, but I am taking all this information from the evidence that has been submitted to us. So looking at that and the statement that is made, I'm trying to weigh whether there has been value so that we can assess whether there is legitimate reason for disbandment. So that's where I'm going. So unless I'm not supposed to interrogate the evidence.
You are granted, Honorable Member. I just wanted to check that. I think you have clarified it.
Thank you, Chair. Minister, when we consider the cost of disbanding immediately, as you put it in your letter, when we consider that, I had to apply my mind to say, when you consider what would the cost implication be for disbanding immediately and winding down. So when you consider that, it totals 49.5 million. And that's for that 12-month transition. This total transitional cost is equivalent to approximately 50% of the previous year's full operational budget. This is just for the winding down. Now I'm comparing if it had to be immediate and if it has to be winding down. The structure of the remaining staff, when I look at it during the winding down, it shows that there's a priority mismatch. The priorities is not adding up. As of May 2025, the remaining 56 members, they comprise of only 20 detectives, 20. But they were allocated 27 combat members, plus 5 commanders and 2 guards, primarily for security and protection services. Now, I thought the final stage was to consolidate the cases that is still pending. If that's the case, you would then have more detectives, because you need to close these cases now. But instead, there is just 20 detectives. So the total number of protective personnel, the security people, they are 29 members. And the detectives responsible for finalizing cases that's still on the court roll are only 20. This suggests that the main focus is not about investigating cases or closing it out. Minister, is this adding value to the South African Police Service in South Africa as a whole?
I would maintain the response that you would more and more see, as you do calculations and so on, that it actually was becoming, or it has become, quite a costly exercise, which is skewed if you look at your needs countrywide. It gets more and more skewed. It's impossible to avoid that conclusion.
Minister, you are from KZN.
Yes.
In your region,
Yes.
over the past few years, you've mentioned, I think indirectly, in your testimony once, that the deaths, you were concerned about the deaths in your area. The increasing deaths in your area. Has the murder rate increased in your area, where you live in KZN?
Not at all. What various statistics per quarter show is that murders in KZN are very high, but political killings have decreased as a result of various factors. But the murders general in the province have not shown any decline, and that is exactly what is getting me more and more worried. To say, what are we doing? Are we doing justice for every citizen? Are we ethical in terms of our approach? Are we realistic? Are we realistic in terms of heeding the call that we should overcome the scourge of murders in the country? Because it's not murders of politicians and Izinduna Namakosi. That is a concern, but not them alone. Together with that of citizens general. Murders in KZN are very high, concerning, very, very, very concerning.
Despite this huge investment, who arrested the hitman on AKA?
Can you
The
come back?
hitmen who murdered AKA, who arrested them? Was it the the political killings task team, or was it the national task team?
Well, I'm not sure about who, in terms of name and surname and so on, who actually did the arrests, but police would be able to give the exact reports on that matter. I didn't ask any whether it is NIU, whether it is the National Political Killings Task Team or what.
We have it on good record that it was not the PKTT. And yet this high-profile murder happened 5-kilometer radius from where the task team is based. And for months, it has gone unresolved. Minister, we've now gone through all the things that you've put before us that would serve as basis for writing a directive to say that these are the reasons why the political killings task team should be disbanded. You question whether or not it has added value, and we've looked into it retrospectively. But you say you only made the decision based on them no longer adding value. Now, if you discard everything that we've just spoken about, and you say to me that you have not based your decision on those facts, you're now going to have to make me understand the period that you are referring to when you say that you've used to make that decision. So you're talking futuristic. They're no longer adding value. But they did. And if you have not considered what I've put to you, what did you consider then to come to the conclusion that they should be disbanded?
Well, I'm saying if you consider everything that you have been saying, even though I didn't go to that long calculations as you were saying, but generally what was being reflected and what was being observed is that on one hand, political killings are decreasing, the cases are decreasing, but you are funding at the level, and you were bound to conclude that there is something disproportionate here. And then you go out of KZN, you look at nationally to say you are facing a serious problem all over, including in some other sections like detectives, DPCI, and so on. And therefore, you are bound to review how you use your budget. And that was part of that was a kind of thinking that went into along those lines without necessarily going that deep into the calculations.
Well, Minister, you inspired me to do so because my job is not to choose a side. So after hearing testimony, I then had to, without bias, listen to you and the evidence that you put before. So when you took the position that there is a need for disbandment, that motivated me to, without bias, neutrally look at the facts and then determine, is there some credence, some value in what you are saying? And this is what I found. And what I found is that the evidence shows that when you measure the impact and the value added to South African police service, South Africa as a whole, there is very minimal value, except for high budgets that's not even on investigations, but rather spent on protection, laundry, SCTs, and all of that. So I've come to the conclusion, Minister, that based on the evidence, what you have written in your directive, based on what I've discovered on the evidence, was correct. Not just futuristically, but also looking back. There has been grave misuse. And I want to say and put it to you, Minister, I am not convinced by your testimony of your relationships with Mr. Brian Mokhotsi and Mr. Matlala. Your testimony there is very questionable. I'm not convinced by it. But when it comes to the reasons and the evidence before me for disbandment and immediate versus winding down, I saw with facts that I've just put to you why it would be justified. Don't worry, Minister, about your position. Don't even worry about public opinion. Stand by your conviction. I look at your evidence. I compared it to what was given before. This is what I conclude. And whether the whole South Africa hates me for doing it, I stand by my conviction. As I close, Minister, Moni Baizani, stand by your conviction when it comes to these facts. On your relationship, how you explain that, I'll be honest with you, it's not convincing. How you defined your relationship, comrade, etc., it's not convincing. But based on this evidence, when you compare that there's a greater need to spend the money that's been spending on a small team, to spread that funding to service South African police service for the whole country, I see it here. And I've put it to you based on numbers. And if that is truly your conviction, stand by that conviction, even if you don't have the position. Put South Africans first. And when I look at this, that money that went for laundry, 4.4 million, could have paid full-time members of South African police service, could have strengthened our intelligence division. Stand by your conviction. Whether the public hates you, we're not here for claps. We're not here for likes. We're here on national duty. I thank you, Minister. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you so much, Honorable Souls, and thank you, Minister, for the first part of this session. May we take Honorable James.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, Minister and honourable members. Minister, you are currently suspended. You are facing serious allegations. By senior officers, you are appearing before this committee Later on, you'll be appearing before the Commission, where your integrity is under scrutiny. At this point, Minister, before I delve into my questions, what is most important to you? Is it your job? Is it going back into office? What is important to you as you are seated here today?
Well, the most outstanding issue for me that needs serious and urgent attention is to bring down levels of crime in South Africa, especially murder, proliferation of firearms, and the drugs that are all over the country, especially
I'm
in the
sorry,
streets.
Minister, that is not the question that I asked you. I'm not speaking about operational matters right now. I'm saying to you, your credibility is under scrutiny. What is important to you right now? In your capacity as you are seated there, is it your job? Is it getting back into office? What is it that is at stake that is important to you?
I want to repeat that what is important, I don't want to put me above what I'm saying. What is important is that the government of South Africa, especially via the Department of Police, need to do what I'm saying, bring down these levels of crime, especially the murders and drugs and firearms. That's the most important thing. My side of things doesn't come first. It will come after that.
Thank you. Let's go back to when you first assumed office. General Kwanazi testified that he received a call from Mr. Nkabinde asking what the duties of a chief of staff entails. Can you clarify what those duties are, particularly given the testimony suggesting that Mr. Nkabinde had little knowledge of them when you appointed him? What are the duties of your chief of staff?
Well, the duties of the chief of staff is generally to manage the office of the minister. That has parliamentary business on one hand and staff that is allocated to make sure that they are properly supervised and guided so that they are able to perform their duties such that the minister is able to perform his duties, including responding to questions and other related matters to Parliament. And then on the other is to assist the Minister on cabinet-related matters, preparing files and reports as may be required. But on the other hand, also to be able to run your public affairs. That includes constituency. It includes answering queries from the public. And then there are also internal issues like connecting with, among other people, the National Commissioner and other officers, such that there's smooth running between the department and the minister on the other hand, but also work with deputy ministers. So generally, those are the tasks in a nutshell of the chief of staff.
That was a very general response, Minister. I was referring specifically to his employment contract of employment. What are the specifics that was required by him? Does he have the relevant qualifications for this job? Do you know what's his qualifications? Does he have any?
So I will ask you, you speak in a low voice, and I
Oh, I speak a low voice. I was
Yes.
just being very considerate because the last time you said I spoke beyond the heads of anything that was alive. But if you want me to up the volume, I gladly will. I asked you what are the qualifications and the technical qualifications that he has.
Well, Mr. Kavinda has a degree that is a BTech in policing and some diplomas and so on. administratively, I would say he worked in the IPIT, where he acquired some skills related to policing.
Thank you, Minister. Reflecting on your 3, I call them New Year's Eve resolutions. When you sat there and you thought, what can I do better this coming year? Let me come up with these 3 New Year's Eve resolutions that has fallen on deaf ears. The resolutions or the directives prompted by your concern for South Africa, particularly the Cape Flats and the high murder rate. And I've listened to you over the last 3 days, and at every given opportunity, Minister, you mentioned the Cape Flats. You mentioned what is unfolding, and you said it is very concerning. When you decided to disband the PKTT, what did you think was going to happen to that resource? Why did you not deploy that resource to the Cape Flats? What plan, in other words, what plan? Because you said you are concerned about the Cape Flats. So when you disband and you come up with these 3 New Year's Eve resolutions, what plan did you have in place for the Cape Flats?
Now, the plan that I had for Cape Flats was that once we have a new division coming up that we decided on last year, Operation and Response Service, we would then be able to optimally use all the units, like the task force, like the National Intervention Unit, TRT, and then POP included, and give them intelligence capacity. In other words, tie them in with intelligence, crime intelligence. Bring the numbers required to the Cape Flats through the National Commissioner, of course, and make them get detailed information about who owns what in terms of firearms and who are the criminal gangs that are operating here, and so on and so on. And who are the operational people on a daily basis, and where do drugs come from, and all of those things. And at one point, I had a meeting, an hour-long meeting with the National Commissioner to say, National Commissioner, we're not sitting comfortably because of Cape Flats. The numbers keep on increasing. The incidents keep on increasing. It was a virtual meeting. And I then asked him, could you deploy intelligence, maybe for a week or 2, so that they give us concrete, tangible information, and then you deploy. By that time, we had long discussed and finalized the creation of the division that I'm talking about. Because to me, it appeared that you can't use normal policing, uniform police to deal with Cape Flats. By then, we had also dealt with agreement with the city of Cape Town to increase personnel. And so I was imagining a situation where they would be here for a month, 3 months, 4 months to stabilize the area. But you need a harder presence of police personnel and in a sustainable way in the Cape Flats. Otherwise, you will always be undermined and be treated as very weak to non-existence by criminals if we continue the way we're continuing.
So you are ultimately telling the people on the Cape Flats here today that for as long as the PKTT is still operational, they won't be protected?
No. I'm not saying that.
Because Minister, in the last meeting in November, that meeting where you said I screamed like that, you promised us that in 2 weeks' time we'll be taking a walk on the beach with the Provincial Commissioner. Did that walk ever happen?
Now, I'm saying, the walk didn't happen because I wanted that walk to be preceded by deployment along the lines that I'm talking about. And I spoke to the National Commissioner for a whole hour. And when I checked, National Commissioner, I think it was after a week, have you done what we agreed on? He said, yes, I came to Cape Town, I launched, and one of the deputies even asked, we didn't feel it. And I was actually surprised myself that National Commissioner had come down and said he had done so. So I said what you are correctly saying, but I wanted it to be preceded by visible deployment in the kind that I outlined to the National Commissioner. Not to come and make promises, further promises, not to come and just walk around without any visible action. I stand here to say I didn't quite get what I wanted the National Commissioner to do.
I'd like to say to you that the Cape Flats has been waiting for a response, Minister, for the past 30 years. As things stand this morning, I'm under immense pressure because of the 7 children that were gunned down yesterday in Westbury. This past weekend, we've had over 30 people mass shootings on the Cape Flats. You keep on mentioning the Cape Flats as reason, as your concern for the disbandment of the PKTT, but to date, there's been absolutely no response to those areas, which is a shame. You are meant to be sitting here and reaffirming and giving South Africans confidence in restoring public trust. Instead, in your statement yesterday, you said that we are weak as SAPS and we are unable to respond. That coming from a minister is concerning. That coming from a minister is extremely concerning. I want to ask you, you place great emphasis
Can I respond
on the...
to that?
No, sir. You place great emphasis on the national PKTT and the budget. You saying that this was a national political killing star scheme.
Honorable James, the witness is requesting the chair to give him opportunity to respond. So, unfortunately, you cannot deny him that opportunity. Just hold it there and let's hear what he wants to say, with due respect. Thank you.
Yes, I wanted to say what you're saying is true. And what you are saying is of similar concern, if not greater concern to me. And I do see that up to this moment, I haven't lived up to that undertaking. I confirm that. And it's not only about Cape Flats. As I mentioned in my various speeches, there's Rivali in South Johannesburg, El Dorado Park, there's Soshanguve in terms of Gauteng. And in terms of KZN, there's Umlazi, there's Inanda, which keep on bleeding. In the Eastern Cape, you continue to have issues around OR Tambo district and in Gqeberha. So these 4 provinces are capitals of matters. And it was for this reason that on one hand we made that undertaking, but on the other, we then created necessary capacity and positioning of South African police to actually face up to these areas of high murder rate so that we deal with them. I haven't been able to get my way on that. It's not necessarily to wait until PKTT, but it is important to note that those resources are very much important. And I've assured everybody, it won't leave either KZN or whoever empty-handed, because the structure is up once you have created and functionalized that division that I'm talking about. Because it is the cutting edge, combative side of SAPS that needs to be capacitated for these 4 provinces. Without that combative edge, we're going to be reacting all the time after 6 people have been murdered, 8 people have been murdered, but we don't stand up front and prevent it the way I was envisaging. It's probably these matters, as I say, I work well with the National Commissioner, but I've realized that, sometimes he would indicate right and then turn left.
And that is a problem for us as South Africans because it impacts what is unfolding in our communities. I wanted to ask you, you also place great emphasis on the National Political Killings Task Team and the budget. Was the budget allocation for national operation? Was it for national? Because when you say that this task team is not only for KZN, it is meant to serve all South Africans. This obviously implicates, and it implicates the accommodation and travel, the actual budget. The initial budget, was it a national budget or was it just for KZN?
It's a national budget that gets allocated to the National Killings, National Political Killings Task Team. And beyond March...
Sir, if you may just stop there.
Yes.
So if you're saying that it's a national budget and the members are deployed to this task team, obviously, you know that members in a specific team obviously then has to travel to other provinces in terms of court appearances. How does this impact the case, the progress on the case, when members are having to travel from one province to the other just to appear for a 2-hour court appearance? And how does that impact? Is that a strong strategy? Are we not only supposed to focus on a specific area where there's fire, and this is the reason behind having a specialized task team? Where there is smoke, there's fire, to deal with a concentrated area. Because you cannot possibly have members from one task team operating in the entire country. It's not feasible to start off with, and members won't be able to appear in court, because this is what we've seen with all other task teams.
What you are saying relates with what I have in mind and that I've been working on for some time. It makes perfect logic.
So I'm specifically speaking to the political killings task team.
Yes.
We are saying, you said that task team is national.
Honorable James, let me just hold you for a moment and recognize Honorable Ngola and Honorable Ntuli.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, yesterday you kept on reprimanding me that I should not bombard your witness with a lot of sentiments and with a lot of questions. And I think Honorable James has fallen to that trap as well. So I think if you can help with that, I think there are a lot of issues, a lot of packages that is giving at once to the witness, and that may find the witness unable to properly intervene on what she wants it to be clarified. Thank you, Chair.
Honorable Chief Whip.
No, thanks, Chair. Good morning to you and good morning to colleagues. No, I agree with what Honorable Ngola is saying. When we are listening, as we have been listening for the past 4 days, some of us, the first time I'm speaking in the presence of the Minister, part of what we are also doing is to listen to what the questioner says and what the answer provided is saying, so that we can follow as we prepare for our own engagement with the witness. Now, the way in which the exchange is taking place between the Minister and Honorable James is making it difficult, not just for the witness, but for ourselves as well, to properly follow the conversation, which is what we're supposed to be doing. So I'm appealing as well for your guidance and intervention to ensure that we are all taken along as we should in the current proceedings. Thanks.
Honorable Sols, I saw your hand was up.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just for clarity, when the Minister says National Political Killings Task Team, I just want to understand the task team that needed to be disbanded was specifically created for operation within KZN, or is the Minister saying that it was created to operate nationally, and therefore the name National Political Task Team, or whether it was just supposed to focus on KZN?
You want to know whether the NPKTT and the PKTT is one thing. Okay. Let me rule on the first point. I want to request you, Honorable James, not to breathe heavily on the neck of the witness. Footsteps are allowed in a race, but when you breathe heavily on the neck of the witness, that may distract the chain of thought. So I just want to request you that you do not breathe heavily on the neck of the witness. And then before we allow you to resume, let's allow the minister to respond to the question that Honorable Sauls has raised, whether the minister, Honorable Minister, the NPKTT and the PKTT, are they one?
They are one. It's National Political Killings Task Team based, but it is based and focused in KZN.
In KZN. Honorable Sauls, are you clarified? Thank you so much. Honorable James, you may proceed.
Chair, I just have it difficulty, even me keeping my trail of thought, when I asked the minister a question and he says what I had in mind. We're not asking the minister what he had in mind. We are specifically referring to the detail and the duties of the national PKTT, and we are trying to determine if this national PKTT was adequately resourced and funded to extend and to do work in other provinces. And so that is what I'm asking the minister. Was the budget allocation, because remember when you put together these task teams, Minister, you book accommodation, you book vehicles, you book laundry, all of those things form part of the costings. Was that done on a national level or was that done on a provincial level? That is what I'm trying to ask.
The budget, right from the beginning of the National Political Killings Task Team, came from national, and it still comes from national. But the National Political Killings Task Team is based in KZN, and its operations are largely, if I could use that word, confined in KZN. They have, however, dealt with a matter or two in the Eastern Cape. They have gone to Gauteng in the form of 10 officers to assist there. And in the three cases that they are assisting in. So, to be honest, Honorable James, when I applied my mind on that day, these are all the questions that I was trying to answer myself. What does it mean to have a national political killings task team when it is actually not national? What does it mean to allocate this budget for operations that are in one province, but not just for the whole province, for a limited category of murders, even in KZN. And even there, amidst a sea of increasing murders, even in that province, and other crimes. Now, I couldn't sit well, and it didn't sit well in my mind to continue with that. The reason for the establishment of the National Political Killings Team, plausible at that time, because it was a trend, a fast-growing trend. But I'm now in 2024. I'm 5 months into the office, and I'm applying my mind with the understanding I've gained. And I then say the best way of addressing this is to really try a smooth overhaul of the system. Not only just that, a number of other areas.
Minister, with all due respect and through you, Chair, we are now speaking into the future. I asked specifically about the budget for the National Political Task Team. Was there an operational budget for only that province or for the, we understand that the actual monies comes from national, but I'm saying the budget of the task team, was it allocated for national operations or just for that specific province? That is all that I'm asking, Minister.
Well, the budget for operations is the budget that is allocated to all provinces, but part of that budget is allocated to for the operations of the National Political Killings Task Team from that budget.
Hey, Minister, you are confusing us here. I'm not even sure how to put this question anymore. Minister, you and I know I've been in this environment for the longest time, for over 15 years when it comes to setting up task teams. Task teams are focused to specific areas. The budget comes from national, but the operational budget is only for a specific province. That is what I'm saying. And I'm asking you, sir, have you been privy to the budget that can qualify your statement when you say it is national? It is national on paper, but it is not, hasn't been operationalized nationally. Am I correct, sir?
Well, I was trying to make it simpler. I don't know why we lose each other. That there would be a pool of money, an X amount of money for operations throughout. And then there will be a cut from that amount for operations of the National Political Killings Task Team, which is in KZN. That's why I'm saying it's part of my concern that we are cutting from reduced resources for the operations of National Political Killings Task Team in one province. I don't know whether that makes sense.
Let's move on to the next question, Minister. The reason why I'm saying this is that you have repeatedly criticized the PKTT for working in silos, for working only in KZN, when they only had resources for KZN. That is the point that I'm trying to get to. Yet,
Yes.
Minister, by you taking a unilateral decision on New Year's Eve without consultation, did you not yourself act in isolation?
Well, I would say no, but maybe the extent to which it was done before the signing may raise those concerns. But I have repeatedly said there were meetings where I made it clear that we need to review, and National Commissioner also spoke along those lines. But I also added before that long before I arrived in SAPS, there was even a memo, as early as I would say April, May or so in 2024 before I arrived, that was implementing a new structure which only got signed this year. It only got signed this year by the National Commissioner, which would have addressed all the issues in all other provinces equally or so, and would have made it unnecessary for us to continue with the National Political Killings Task Team. Now, but before that, there's been a work study and a structure based on that study to spread resources and equally to address these concerning issues in each of the provinces.
Minister, you further mentioned that the National Commissioner could have objected to your directive, right? Saying it happens all the time where you have national commissioners sort of having a different approach. In which South Africa is this, Minister? Because SAP's not an environment governed by instruction and execution where subordinates act out of duty and at times out of fear. Is that not the SAP's environment, that when you receive an instruction, you act on it?
Generally, that is the overall rule in SAPs. But when it comes to minister and national commissioner, it's not necessarily the spirit. The spirit is that you have a closer relationship so that there's maximum understanding in terms of what needs to be done at any given moment, so that there's smooth direction general of SAPs, identifying problems together and resolving them together. And that is what we've been trying to do until later, when I now realize that we're no longer that together as much as we had been before. So the character generally is that from National Commissioner downwards, he gives directions to lower ranks and instructions, and they get complied with. But between the minister and the national commissioner, it's not instructions per se. It's more to say, this is the view, and we share, and then we'll move on, by and large.
Minister, the last couple of days has almost felt like an English lesson class, where you're now saying it's not an instruction per se, when this is the culture of this environment, it's a view. I've been stuck on words such as immediately, comrade, acquaintance, all of that, and now we are saying an instruction is a view. When we had witnesses coming before us and saying to us, when you receive an instruction from a minister, you must act on it and you must act immediately.
No, we're saying the same thing. Materially, there's no difference between what you are saying and what I'm saying. All I'm saying is that when I say from National Commission downwards, it's much more stringent, much more streamlined. But I say between the minister and national commissioner, most of the time is discussion. That doesn't mean that in the Constitution there's no directive, there's no space for directives. There is space for directives, and this is what I used in terms of, in this instance, of the three directives that I gave.
Minister, on the counterintelligence investigation, because this is where I believe this is where the wheels came off. Both General Masemola and Mokanazi testified that you disbanded the PKTT under the mistaken belief that it was the unit investigating drug cartels in Gauteng. Are you aware of that?
No, I deny that very strongly.
But are you aware that this is what they testified?
I'm aware of what they were saying, and I deny it very, very strongly.
Their testimony draws a link between that decision and your alleged association with Brown Mogotsi, who in turn is linked to Kat Matlala, reportedly tied to a Gauteng-based drug cartel. You have denied this claim, but why do you believe two of the country's most senior police officers would make such serious allegations against you if there was no basis for it?
Now, number one, I did say, and I said that there were two ways in which there are two kinds of reaction to my directives. The first one was General Masemola, to whom I wrote the directives. They were addressed to him. For all purposes, we moved along right from the beginning with General Masemola. I don't want to lie. we were together up until after March. We were together, step after step, with him playing a role, coming up with phases and all of that. But on the other hand, General Mkhwanazi took a much more confrontational line or stance as a reaction to my directives. One is national, one is provincial. Now, why ultimately they would say that, it's something that I'm still quite baffled about, that I'm associated with drug cartels. Now, I'm saying in this room, there's no drug cartel that I'm linked to. There's none. And I've never acted in support, directly or indirectly, of any drug cartel in South Africa. It has never happened.
Minister, are you aware that Brown Mokhotsi is linked to Kat Matlala?
In terms of what is coming out now with in the Madanga Commission, it does look like they are quite close to each other, something that I've never been aware of all the time about Brown Mokhotsi. It's something that it's just emerging
The
now.
very Brown Mokhotsi that has been sending you messages that you said is a crafty character, that you have been receiving messages from him, and you said that sometimes this guy actually makes no sense. So that tells us that there's a pattern of communication. So you earlier on said that you are not linked to any drug cartels directly or indirectly. Based on the fact that you have Brown Mokhotsi linked to a drug cartel and in communication with you, what do you make of that?
Well, I'm saying that I do know Brown Mokhotsi, and I have spoken to him, and we have met on occasions. Now, I wasn't aware of any other person he links up with in his own time. I wasn't aware, totally unaware. I've never asked him, who else do you speak to? Who else do you do what with? I've never asked him that question. It is emerging only now, all those matters that all of us are becoming aware of. And I'm concerned about it. That's what I've said. But up to now, I'm saying I've never spoken to to Matlala. I've never linked up with him on anything, from him to me, or from me to him. And we've never met in person. It has never happened. And I've said, even when the word link is used, it is running empty. I've never seen anyone putting on the table anything concrete to say this is evidence of the link. It's an accusation, and that's partly what I'm dealing with here, and therefore and I did say on the 12th of June, which was something like a few weeks before the Durban media briefing by General Mkhwanazi, I had convened a meeting where General Masimula was expected to present, together with whoever he would have delegated the job to present a special crime intelligence. Why do we have so much drugs in the country? Why do we have so much illegal firearms? And why do we have so many murders and so on? No, it was drugs and firearms. That meeting took place, and I did take a detailed report it was an effort to understand this on my side, having raised it in November, to then start getting to fight all these matters and reverse the trend that everybody is concerned about. And I do want to repeat, well, in the report, as it turns out now, there was no big five in the report that I received, but there were other, I would say, cartels that were identified, and I want to say that I am not linked to any. So why the two would have come here to say I'm linked, I don't know, but I'm yet to hear where they are basing it. That I know, and I've been speaking to Brown, does not automatically mean I'm also linked to people that he speaks to, and I also know the people that he knows. It does not mean that, and in reality, it is not like that.
Thank you, Minister. Chair, I'm losing my trail of thought as a result of the long answers. I just thought I'd bring it to your attention. Minister, if data were to be extracted from your phone, can you confirm that there would be no evidence of communication regarding the work of the Gauteng Counterintelligence Unit or its investigations into drug cartels? Because like I said earlier on, the wheels came off when those 10 members were redeployed from the KZN task team to counterintelligence. So can you confirm that there'll be no communication, no link whatsoever on your phone, should your phone be taken for extraction?
Between who and who?
I'm saying to you again, if data were to be extracted from your phone, can you confirm that there would be no evidence of communication regarding the work of the Gauteng Counterintelligence Unit or its investigations into drug cartels?
Well, if I get your question clearly, is that there would be no link between myself and drug cartels?
On your phone, there would be no communication on your phone, Minister.
Between me and drug cartels?
There would be no evidence of communication on your phone if data were to be extracted from your phone.
There would be no communication with drug cartels. I want to be clear.
This is taking into my time. Minister, if data were to be extracted from your phone...
Honorable James, look, you have to be straightforward with your question, because you are asking the witness on evidence that is not before. It's like you are saying, in the event there is proof that you have been in conversation with so and so. So that's why you need to be straightforward so that you don't confuse the witness. The witness must understand, because that evidence that he might have spoken to somebody is not before this committee. So ask him the question that you want to ask, but be patient with him, allow him to understand what you want him to respond to.
I'm very patient, Chair, and I'm not sure how else to ask this question at this stage. I'm really not sure why the Minister's not understanding a simple question. Maybe you can put it to him.
I want you to allow him to understand at his own pace.
But it's taking from my time having to repeat the same question 4 times.
You will have that time. The question, the matter in reference is not before the Ad Hoc Committee. It's in the event. So put the question to him, but allow him to understand it to the best of his ability.
I think let me move on, Minister.
I know, Honorable Nwela, we are moving on. Let's not flog dead horses.
Minister, could your relationship with Mr. Brown Mokgotsi, the same individual...
I think from where I sit, you were making things simpler for me to respond to the honourable member to a question that appears to be quite important.
I'm ruling you out of order because the honourable member has decided not to proceed with the question, so it is immaterial. Erase it from your mind. It is not there. Yeah.
Could your relationship with Mr. Brown Mokgotsi, the same individual who allegedly funded your January 8 guess, allegedly, be the reason a message was sent from him to Matlala, currently in CMAX, informing him that the task team had been disbanded? Do you not see the reasonable link that any ordinary person would see?
There is no request that I ever made to Brown Mokgotsi to organize any dinner for me anywhere in the Republic, not just Cape Town. What would have happened, he would have done that on his own. Whether it is funding from whoever, it was not necessarily as per my, or from a request from me. I never asked for any, I never diarized any, I never knew that was anything that was being done in my name. I never knew it. And I was not part of that. And I was not even in Cape Town in those days. All that I have learned, I've learned afterwards to say there was some dinners supposedly organized in my name. Some people were flown in and accommodated, and I don't even know who those people are.
Is that not worrying, Minister? What did you do about it?
It's worrying. It's very worrying. It's similarly worrying when there is a WhatsApp, if it is true, of a WhatsApp to General Mkhwanazi saying, Minister has arrived in Lusikisik, when in fact I had arrived there. But then the message is made like Mkhotsi is there with me and is relating that information, when in fact it was not like that. When in fact it was not like that. So that is equally worrying. And many other instances that are similar. But those things, I imagine now, they had not been part of any other relation I've had with Mkhotsi, or rather I was not aware if he was doing such things. I'm very concerned about that.
Based on what you've just said, Minister, when you say that Mr. Mkhotsi often sent you messages, right, out of the blue, that sometimes made no sense, are you suggesting that his communication was unsolicited? You also describe him as a crafty character. What exactly do you mean by that, Minister? Do you know him well? You're saying now that you can't make sense of the fact that he would send these messages. You have no link with it. You've described him as a crafty character, and you've also earlier said that he would usually do this. He would usually send these messages.
Well, I spoke about craft in a context that we were discussing, but I maintain that because, as I said, if you send a message to General Mkhwanazi and you are Brown Mokgotsi, and you say, I'm with the minister, whatever the message was saying, Minister has just arrived in Lusikisik. This being crafty in my view, because it creates an impression that indeed he's there and at my behest, which was never true, which is not true. It's like the other issue that General Mkhwanazi was raising of Brown Mkhotsi getting some document at the police station in Pangeni, which he said in a manner that creates an impression that just because I have a house there, not far from police station, I would have facilitated anything for Brown Mkhutsi. No, it's not like that. I never did that. I never knew anything about that. And other examples. So I am saying, other than the relationship of a mere comrade to another mere comrade, there are no other things that I've been doing or that I do with Brown Mkhutsi. I've been relating that. Nothing. No dinner, no lusikisiki, no fundraising that I have asked him to do. It has never happened. It has never happened. And if he claims, or anybody claims, I would want to see what evidence that would make people say, I have any other relationship with Brown Mkhutsi, which I say I don't have. And I even said in the Sizulu yesterday, why must I have?
Yeah, that is enough, Minister.
Okay, thank you.
Minister, what would be your response if I put it to you that the committee will hear testimony from former Minister Sele, that Kat Matlala told him that you and Brown Mkhutsi met with Kat Matlala to discuss a project which was your campaign for the ANC president or the deputy president?
I would outright say,
Point of order, Chair. No, I just want to.
Point of order taken.
Yeah, I want to know utubani lesela khuluma ngalo Honorable James uthe Minister Sele ubani lesela khuluma ngalo. Thank you. Honorable James, you spoke of Isela Sele.
Honorable Shongwe says you speak about Sele. And then he wants to know who is Minister Sele.
Minister Becky Tsele, my apologies.
Okay. Oh no, ngobe Isela. Okay, no, Isela means Isela. Okay, no, thank you.
You want to say former minister?
Former Minister Becky Tsele, my apologies.
now, if former Minister Peggy Cele would say at one point, I met Matlala, I met Mkhutsi, and discussed something, that would be a lie, an outright lie. If it were to happen, it would be a lie, even without me asking for evidence, even before I do that, because I know that has never happened.
Minister, you appear to place great importance on public opinion. You said public?
This is the last question you are asking.
Yes.
Yes, you are now on the referee's optional time. The whistle can blow any time.
Noted, Chair. Minister, you appear to place great importance on public opinion. As it stands, there are widespread calls for you to vacate office, and you have become central to the internal divisions within SAPS. Would it not be in the best interest of South Africans and of restoring public trust for you to step down?
Well, I don't know what you are talking about. We're in an ad hoc commission or committee. We are dealing with the problems that we are dealing with at the moment. What you are introducing, I can't answer.
It is based on public perception that you spoke about. Thank you so much,
Thank you so much, honorable members. We will come back at 2 o'clock.
Huh? Have you tried to like stay and it's not you? I can't operate from that. Like most orchestrated, like.